Hari Om. Last week we started into the introduction of Bhagwan Shri Adi Shankaracharya ji. Do you know how many years did he live totally? Who said that? Thank you, Amma. The happiness is at least one person knows the answer. 32 years of age. When he was born, the blessings that he was born with was that he will live for 16 years of life. Something in between happened where he had an interaction with Bhagwan Vedavyas ji himself, who gave him darshan, and there was a debate between both of them. Pleased with what Adi Shankaracharya ji had understood of the scriptures, Bhagwan Vedavyas ji extended his visa by another 16 years. Thereby, he got extended from 16 to 32 years of age. So, when you look at it, how many of us are above 32? Most of us, right? In comparison, if you look at it, from the age of 8, did I tell you the story of how he reached to his Guruji's ashram? Yes, no? Okay, let's go even further back. So, it is said that Bhagwan Adi Shankaracharya ji was born with some very rare occurrence. Have you ever dreamed? Of course. I am not talking about, I have a dream kind of a speech. I am talking of real sleeping and dreaming in that sleep. Everybody dreams. What if one day you wake up and you find that you have had the same dream as your husband or wife? That would be a very freak occurrence, isn't it? Or you have had a certain portion of dream and the next scene of it was dreamt by your husband or your wife. That will be strange occurrence, right? So, it so happened that both the parents of Bhagwan Adi Shankaracharya ji, one day, because they did not have kids for a very long time, they were living a very austere life, and Adi Shankaracharya ji's father used to run a Gurukula. He used to run a full-fledged Gurukula, where there will be a lot of students that he would be teaching. But they themselves did not have a child for a very long period. So, they would offer their prayers to Bhagwan Shiva, who they loved very endearingly, and said that, please bless us with a son. So, one night after their prayers, when they slept, they found, both of them woke up and they found that they both had a very similar, if not same, vision or dream. Both of them had Bhagwan Shiva in their dream. Both of them were given a question. Bhagwan Shiva said to them, individually in each one of their dreams, I am pleased with your austerities. I am here to bless you with a choice. Do you want a son with a long life, but a useless fellow, or a short-lived spark of life who will do amazing things. It seems that both chose a short-lived but an amazing child. So Bhagavan Shiva blessed them both to say that you will have a son who will live a short-lived life of 16 years. But he will do spectacles in those 16 years. When they soon had a son who was named Shankara, because he was born on the Panchami, and that Panchami who is born usually has to be named with Sha. So Shankara was named. Shankara also has 5 syllables. So they had some numerology run on it and they named him Shankara. By the time that he was about 3.5 years old, his father passed away, who was also his teacher. He passes away. So mother raises him up. When he was about 5 years of age, he comes to his mother with a very strange request. Mother, all that our Gurukula here can offer, I have already studied, memorized, and I understand it all well. All done. Local school, whatever could offer, he said, I have already learnt it all. I think it will be more meaningful for me to pursue the higher knowledge, and that can be achieved if I have been given the permission to relinquish all other responsibilities and focus only on that. May I take sannyas? How old was he? Matra 5 saal, 5 years old. Now imagine, you all have raised a 5-year-old. If your 5-year-old came to you and said, Mom, Dad, I think I am done. Finito. Me gonna take sannyas. What will be your response? You will give him Nintendo DS and say, go play. Isn't it? Mother saw the sincerity and with the very steadfastness with which he was asking, that he was not kidding around. So she said, wait for 2 more years. Because she wanted to also test him, right? You know, if this fellow is really serious about it. Let's wait for 2 more years, and if your intensity and intention remain firm, let's talk about it then. So he waited eagerly. After 2 years, he went back to his mother again promptly. Remember, Mom, 2 years ago you had promised that we will discuss this topic. I think the time has come. I have waited for 2 years. You should allow me to. Usually when somebody else's son or daughter takes to this path, we go praise the parents saying, wow, what a samskara you have given to your child. But when our own child leaves, nobody that I have seen who is in favor of it. Very rarely. Nobody is in favor of it. So she was feeling very attached, being the only child and the only mother that is raising him. She didn't want to let him go. Pretty soon, you know, though he was born in the maternal home, in Kerala there is no patriarchy. It is the maternal system that works. Adi Shankaracharya ji was born in his maternal home, which is the case in most of the traditional childbirth. This maternal home is in a place called Veliyanad. The paternal home where the Gurukula was, where his father was teaching, was in Kaladi. That paternal home is a side story, okay? Adi Shankaracharya's story we will get back to as a side story. That paternal home in mid-80s came to the attention of Puja Gurudev that house, paternal house of Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji with all the land and temple in it, was being put for sale by the successors of Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji's lineage. So he immediately called the local board members and said, go inquire if that property is on sale, if those successors are trying to sell that property. And soon they found that yes, that property was on sale. In those days it was about 16 or 15 lakhs. So Gurudev said, give them 10 lakhs more. Because today what we are as Hindu, we can only credit it to the great effort that Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji has put himself. And his lineage should not suffer from being cornered of not having money to live, to survive. So even if it is 27 lakhs, give them that and purchase that land. Today that land is aptly called as Chinmaya International Foundation, where all the research work of Chinmaya Mission on scriptural studies is done even today. It holds one of the largest manuscript library, which is a state of the art, where they have to keep it dry, atmospheric pressure and everything. And when I am talking of these manuscripts, some of them are thousands of years old. The oldest that I had seen when I had gone there long time ago was about 3000 years old. Very recently, this must be before I came, so must be about 20 plus years ago. In the borders of Karnataka and Kerala, there was an ancient house that was given to 4 brothers, and they wanted to pull it down and build a apartment. So when they were pulling that house down, it belonged to a very traditional family of Nambudris. Nambudri are the priests in Kerala. From the attic fell several manuscripts, hundreds of manuscripts. As soon as we came to know of it in the Chinmaya International Foundation, they drove up there and they agreed that those manuscripts should be preserved, and it was given to Chinmaya International Foundation. Fortunately or unfortunately, the script in which it was written, like today if your children write the Sanskrit shlokas, what language do they write it in? English, right? Though you may be able to read Devanagari, but your children will be reading it in English, but they are reading Sanskritam through English. So writing Sanskritam in English is called writing it in a different lipi. Lipi is the language of writing. Today we write Sanskritam in Devanagari, or that which we read Hindi as well in, or Marathi. Ancient literature of Sanskritam was written in Brahmi Lipi or Sharada Lipi. The ancient script in which it was written was known as Sharada Lipi or Brahmi Lipi. At that point of time when we found that manuscripts, we had across India, Bharatvarsha, only 3 people that knew that script. 2 of them were incapacitated to move because of their old age. One that could move was duly requested to come to Chinmaya International Foundation, and I think by today there are about close to 4,000 researchers that can read, write and decipher from that lipi, well versed in it, kind of research that happens. And that is in that paternal home in Veliyanad. How many of you have visited Kerala? How many of you plan to visit Kerala? Many of you. Even if you don't plan to, please plan to visit Kerala and visit this paternal home. There is a Ayyappan temple within the complex, and that is claimed that that was worshipped by Bhagwan Adi Shankaracharya ji himself. That house where the room in which he was born is still maintained in pristine glory, as ancient as it was. So you should go visit that. So when Adi Shankaracharya ji was about 8 years old, by the time he was born and started growing, he was shifted to Kaladi. Right around that Gurukula there is a river that flows. And even today, not just the ancient times, those who live by the river, they have the habit of taking bath in the river as a regular tradition. When I used to live in Vijayawada, every opportunity that I had that I could go to Krishna river, though I am not a swimmer, I would love to go there and take bath in Krishna river. And there is a joy in it. So it's a habit. Both mother and son went for bath, and son wanted to swim around, so he was swimming. Suddenly he screamed, "Mother, there is a crocodile that is pulling me down. I don't seem to find a grip. I think my time has come." He was sinking. Something was pulling him, crocodile was pulling him. Strangely, that boy, Shankara, he asks, "Mom, this is my, I think, final moments. At least in this final moments, can I take sannyas?" Because sannyasa, there are 3 modes of sannyasa. Those who have attained the highest, that which this knowledge gives, is Brahma Sakshatkara. When they take to sannyasa, it is called Vidvat sannyasa. That which is taken up by the Vidvat, the knowledgeable ones. Then there are those like us who have taken sannyasa in pursuit of that knowledge and highest state. It is called Vividisha sannyasa, in pursuit of that knowledge. Then there is a third, according to Shiva Purana, Linga Purana and other Puranas, that it is of a great sanctity that if you can take to sannyasa, when you realize that you are on your deathbed and you are going to leave this body, you can take sannyasa. That is called Atura sannyasa. So Bhagwan Adi Shankaracharya ji, as an 8-year-old, said, there is the third clause. According to the third clause, can I take that Atura sannyasa? It has been my long cherished desire to take to that path sannyasa, and consider this as my dying wish. Now the mother immediately said, Tathastu. Maybe it's so. As soon as she said Tathastu, the crocodile let Shankara go. By divine intervention, maybe, that the crocodile felt sympathetic towards the sannyasi and said, okay, let him survive. So he walks out, and then the first thing that he tells his mom is, remember, you have already given me permission. But mother, when you are in your last moments of life, remember me, and I shall come wherever I am back to you to take care of you, because I am the only son of yours. That is my promise unto you. So this 8-year-old now goes in search of his guru. He had heard about a great Mahatma in Narmada river, near Narmada river. Do you know where Narmada flows? शुरू कहाँ होता है? विंध्या तो नीचे है, मध्य प्रदेश से होता हुआ गुजरता है, पर शुरू कहाँ होता है? गुजरात से. So it starts in Gujarat. You know, in Gujarat there is this great tradition called Narmada Parikrama. You know, around Surat and that area there is a Narmada Parikrama. So it starts there, and from there it comes down to Madhya Pradesh. Somewhere around that borders of today's Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, was the ashram of Govindam Bhagavat Pada. This 8-year-old reaches his ashram. What was the mode of transport? Good, strong 2 legs. He walked all the way from Kerala, all the way up to the borders of present day Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh. So he reaches to his master. Again, the guru is facing an 8-year-old. If you are in the position of a guru and an 8-year-old today is what grade? 3rd grade student comes to you and says, Mama, I think I am done with life. Whatever I had to see, whatever has to be seen, I have seen it all. I have got no much more interest in those things. I want to take to renunciation. Now this Govinda Bhagavat Padacharya is facing a 8-year-old, and that 8-year-old is saying, can I take to sannyas? He wanted to test him. So after good thought, he said, have you heard of Vishnu Sahasranama? Have you heard Vishnu Sahasranama? Vishwam Vishnur Vashatkaro Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu. That's the first sloka. He says, have you heard of Vishnu Sahasranama? He said, yes, I have memorized it. Do you want me to chant it? I said, no, not necessary. But I want you to write the meaning of every single word of Vishnu that has been given in that 1000 names of Vishnu. He was hoping that to finish the entire 1000 names, it would take a while, and while that is being written, if this intention of this kid is not to be in sannyasa, maybe he has, fought with his parents or with his siblings, he would find that intention sake, and maybe he will go back home. This kid took shower in or bathed in Narmada river, came back to the Rishi's ashram, which was in a cave. He took to the cornermost spot, sat down, overnight wrote down the entire commentary on the 1000 names of Bhagavan Vishnu. By morning, he again took bath, came back to his guru, gave the manuscripts to him saying, here you go, I complete the entire commentary. That was his first commentary. It is said by later students of Adi Shankaracharya ji that it took about 3 days for the Guru to read through the written work. Why? Because he has referred to about 20 plus Upanishads, about 16 Puranas, the Purvanga portion of the Vedic literature, Upanishads making the Uttaranga, the later portions, the Purvanga portions of the Vedic literature, and various other Samhitas like Parashurama Samhita, then Parashara Samhita and Garga Samhita he has referred to in commenting on Vishnu Sahasranama. A very thorough work that was done. It was not just Vishnu, all pervading, Vishwam, world, just a word meaning, but each one of those words, Sanskrit declensions, Sanskritam etymological derivations, and to find that this is the appropriate meaning, he quotes from several other scriptures to authenticate that particular commentary, and it took the Guru 3 days to read through it. Having read through it, he understands that this is no normal kid, that who can pull up about the entire commentary on Vishnu Sahasranama overnight with such authority must be a Karana Purusha. Then he went ahead and said, this is my sacred duty to give you sannyasa. So it is said that in the next part of few years that he lived in the Gurukula, that which was given in a written format by Bhagwan Vedavyas ji as the Vedic literature, which had 4 portions of Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, it was rewritten in its entirety by Adi Shankaracharya ji, and then he did the entire Bharatavarsha parikrama. He went around up and down, north and east, at least 4 times according to the travelogue that he had maintained, which was later written by Padmapadacharya ji to Vidyaranya Swami ji as a book called Shankara Digvijaya, which is the travelogue. In that he has mentioned he has travelled all across 4 times, and it is not like a tourist going around visiting places, with a very purposeful intent, because by that time there was a confusion, deep based confusion that had seeped in. Now what kind of confusion? To understand that, we have to go into the political scenario, social scenario of that particular era. Now if you go to Google, it says anywhere between 5th century BCE to 3rd century ADE is the birth date of Adi Shankaracharya. So if you look at it, what is the discrepancy? Wikipedia has a discrepancy of 800 years. So I would request that anything regarding to Hinduism, one source not to check in for is, समझ में आया ना? There are lots of resources there, but Wikipedia is not one such. When was Bhagwan Adi Shankaracharya ji's birth time? Why is it important to know? Because right around that time, just before Adi Shankaracharya ji, there were 2 stalwarts, religious stalwarts, who had challenged the Veda itself. They were known as Buddha and Mahavira. After Buddha started Buddhism, after Mahavira started Jainism. Both these, Buddha and Mahavira, did not follow the Vedic traditions. Though most of the vocabulary, language and the systems of logic framework, you will find it as dharmic itself, because they grew up in that environment within the Bharatiya dharmic context. Therefore, when you see the Tridipika, Tripatika or the Dharma Granthas of Bauddha and Jaina, you will find the exact same vocabulary: karma, moksha, nirvana. You will find the same vocabulary, but with different definitions to it, different contextual meaning to it, according to the understanding of Buddha and Mahavira. Okay, on a side track, another note. From the English perspective, when we say theist and atheist, what is the understanding that we have? Who is a theist? Good collective effort, but nothing was heard by me. Can one of you raise your hand and tell clearly? Abhi silent. Theist is the one that who believes in God. So thereby, those who are atheists are those who don't believe in God. So we make an immediate connection saying Astika and Nastika is the same definition. Those who believe in our God are called Astik. Those who don't believe in God are called Nastik. Fair enough? But we are all wrong on it. According to the Hindu dharmic tradition, who is Astik and who is Nastik? I mentioned it by mistake. I leaked the question paper. So what is the answer? Those who believe in Veda are called Astik. Those who do not believe in Veda are called Nastik. So within the dharmic tradition, there is these two people who challenge the Vedic tradition itself. What was the socio-economic religious impact of that on the society? Up until that moment, there were only Hindus in the Bharatiya context. In the Bharatiya context, there were only Hindus. So every town, village, kingdom had a Gurukula, a place where everybody could be educated, and that Gurukula was supported by the entire community. Because the community's children go there to get educated, therefore it is community's responsibility to support, be the patrons of that Gurukula. But now the society got divided, there were two more options. What were the two options? Bauddha and Jaina. Both had bhikshus. So the families that believed in the Sanatana Dharma would support the Gurukula students who will come for bhiksha. Those who had adopted to the Bauddha, they took to supporting the Bauddha bhikshus, and many of them were state sponsored. That the king themselves had converted and thereby propagated the support of Jaina or Buddha. What happened to the local traditional Gurukulas? No one to support, no one to sustain. And most of these Gurukulas were run by poor Brahmins. Brahmins were poor and most of them ran Gurukulas. So the sustainability was that question. Second aspect of it was, of that which had to be taught to the next generations, there was not much crowd coming to learn. So what happened? As a knee-jerk effect of the things that can be saved and be given to the next generation, they said, at least let us get the ritual portions of it to the next generation. When about 2 to 3 generations get that knowledge of rituals only, what became of the rest of the society? And I'll give you a parallel of immediate relevance. How many years since the independence of India? 70? So, not from an economic or a school standpoint, but a generation is defined by 25 years. So, 3 generations have passed by since Indian independence. Is it a fair enough a statement? So, in these 3 generations, what has happened is the understanding of the Hindu Dharma, its practice and living of it, our parents and their parents never allowed us question it. Is it fair enough to say that? When I asked, I know what the response that I got. I got a good heavy forehand and a topspin. Do you understand? There was no answer. They said, "Chup! Hum jo bolega, tu wo karega." Was that the kind of environment that you grew up in? Most of us grew up in that kind of an environment. They gave us the process, they did not give us the purpose behind the process. This generation, whether growing up in India or here, we have a problem with because they have questions. And we do not have answers. You understand the situation? In 3 generations, we have reached to a point wherein we search for environments like this wherein, Swamiji, I am already done case, you know. At least my children should get it. Such are the ones sitting here. Am I okay calling you out like that? Okay? Sort of? Okay. Yeah, at least the children should benefit. Now imagine when the entire society was divided at that point wherein there is nobody to sustain it, there is nobody to patronize it. What happened to that entire environment as a knee-jerk effect? They started giving only the ritual portions of it. Over next 2 or 3 generations, they adhered to only rituals as the only thing of Hinduism. So there was a huge discrepancy, length and breadth of India, wherein the actual purpose of scripture was not being adhered to. So he saw that downfall and said something has to be done. So he went across length and breadth of India. Wherever there were Gurukulas, he had Shastrartha. Remember, this is a very technical word. Shastrartha. See, today's intellectual discourse, in my opinion, it has degraded to a point of convenience, wherein we have come to be very okay with a statement saying, let us agree to disagree. Have you heard this kind of argumentation wherein let us agree to disagree? You have your standpoint, I have my standpoint, let us agree to disagree. Stakes are minimal. In those days, the stakes were pretty high. Now, what is the famous Shastrartha of Adi Shankaracharya ji? He had it with a certain gentleman called Mandana Mishra. So, he approaches him. He was the stalwart. He used to run. He was the dean of 6 universities. Not one university with 6 streams of thoughts, but 6 different universities he was considered as a dean. In the entire northern belt, he was the name to reckon with. So Adi Shankaracharya ji knocks his door. How profound was his teaching and the adherence, that the parrots that lived in that forest used to speak of the Veda mantras, because they had lived there. The parrots can repeat. They used to repeat the Vedic mantras. Is it an alarm? It is the, what do you call? Alert. Ambar se aaya alert. Ambar alert. So he went and knocked his door for Shastrartha. So what were the stakes? He said, if my way of presenting the thought is flawless and you are not able to shred it, then you take to my path. He was a grihastha with 6 gurukulas and a profound following. You have to drop all of that and take up sannyasa and follow me. And in return, what was the stake for Adi Shankaracharya ji? That I would give up sannyasa and follow you in whatever path that you would choose for me. Can you imagine the stakes? It's not a flimsy pattern of saying, let us agree to disagree, you know. It's okay, you have your opinion, I have my opinion, let's go along. There is no focused attempt to get to some clarity with this kind of a mindset. So when they came to that Shastrartha, but what is the most beautiful part of this Shastrartha? Who was the judge? Judge was the wife of Mandana Mishra, who was also well qualified in all the 4 Vedas. Of the 6 darshanas, she was profound in 2, one Uttara Mimamsa and the second Purva Mimamsa. Both portions of Vedic literature was on her fingertips. She sat down on a higher pedestal. Both Adi Shankaracharya and Mandana Mishra were sitting in front of her having the debate. It's then after about 45 days, she finally decides that my husband has lost, Adi Shankaracharya has won. Like this, he went across entire Bharatvarsha, changing Gurukula after Gurukula, mindset after mindset, wherein the knowledge that has to be understood, like today the shloka that we have seen. What is the 3rd shloka that we chanted? Pura prokta mayanagha jnana yogena sankhyanam karma yogena yoginam. That there are 2 paths, one is of jnana marga, the other is the karma marga. Within the karma marga comes all the bhakti, yoga and karma. Those are used for the cleansing of the individual's mind, antakarana. With that cleansed mind, they come to the jnana portion, and in that jnana is where mukti is possible. This is the main theme of Adi Shankara's discourse. Not just Adi Shankara's, it is the ancient which Bhagavan Vedavyas ji and his ancestors had always ascertained. Not only that, he had thus won and changed the mindset of that particular time frame and re-established Dharma. He was a great organizer, administrator and a poet himself. So those aspects of Bhagavan Adi Shankaracharya ji we will see next week before stepping into Bhaja Govindam. Why is this introduction important? Bhaja Govindam, we have been hearing MS Subbalakshmi. No, don't take it that lightly. It is given as a very profound step-by-step method to understand life in its unique perspective by a stalwart who is that great Adi Shankaracharya ji. So I am giving you an insight into his life and work, understanding which we will appreciate the message given by him in Bhaja Govindam. So next week also we will spend on the introduction, then we will get into Bhaja Govindam. So meanwhile, our Anand ji, Anand Bellari ji, he is the books sales in charge. So if you want to avail a copy of Bhaja Govindam, he is the person to ask. Next week it will be available. Bhaja Govindam books will be available. You will know him. You all saw him? Unko pakadi. Let's conclude. Om Shant Shant Shanti Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om.